What is up, guys? How you doing? I'm going to share a game with you that isn't as bad as the previous dropping my trousers game that I shared, and it's notable because it gives me a chance to whip out quite a rare gambit. But the other thing is that I realised that I haven't studied this gambit at all. So I'm going to show you the game, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I build a Lichess study completely from scratch for a new opening. Okay, so I practically pre-moved e5, okay? Because basically, if white plays e4, I'm playing e5, right? Which is played the majority of the time, second most common move. d4, I play e5. So pretty much, I mean, yeah, knight f3 could be an issue. So basically, I moved this without even thinking. And it just so happens that this is the line that I've identified for the Freddy Krueger repertoire against Bird's opening. And Bird's opening is just plain bad, really. It's not played at the serious level because you are simply opening up a line to your king. But From's Gambit, this is From's Gambit. And it's kind of, you can play it in a similar way to the Charlick. So white here took, and I just thought, sod it, in for a penny, in for a pound, I'm pushing d6, and we'll go for a Charlick-like approach. So normally in the Charlick, they've pushed the d, right? So normally they haven't got their d pawn, but they have got their f pawn. But I thought, you know, look, if it works for one pattern, it'll work for another. I have sacrificed a pawn, and in return, I've got a bishop there with possibilities of this. However, the classic Charlick trap isn't on because the d-pawn is still there. The classic Charlick trap being, for example, when they castle, if there's no d-pawn, you haven't got a d-pawn, you can capture with check and maybe win the queen. Okay, but in fact, normally you play queen e7, long castles, get a rook on d8, and then do it that way. However, back to the old game. So opponent plays d4, kind of sensible move. I mean, they could still castle short, they could still castle long. I bring up my knight. I didn't fancy bringing up this knight with the possibility of it being kicked straight away, so, okay, bishop pin. And now I challenge the pin. Now, a lot of us can get confused about, you know, when does it make sense to challenge a pin, right? So, to basically putting the question to the bishop. Now, in this instance, I figured thusly. If white takes, I recapture with my queen. Okay, white has just spent one move doing this and then one move doing that, loses his bishop's off the board, and how does the board look? He's got no pieces developed and I've got two. Plus my queen is looking down the open f-file, okay? So, that's happy. Now, if he retreats, he's lost a tempo. So I don't lose a tempo by playing h6. Right? In tempo terms, we're all good. And then I figured, well, actually, if he retreats and I double kick, and he comes back to g3, that would be bad for him because I take and he gets doubled isolated pawns on the g file. Not very nice, precious. So back he comes to here, which is kind of awkward. I guess here I could have thought about slipping my knight in there and preventing the d-pawn from advancing, but generally more important is to develop, so out comes knighty knight. If he pushes now, I don't mind kind of pivoting the knight round elsewhere. Could even come here and look at c2 maybe. He pushes e3, and now look at this situation, right? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces out on the board. He's got one, right? For the cost of a pawn, I think that's a fair trade. So again, you know, I'm thinking in Charlick terms. I'm thinking queen e7, long castles, get my rook on the semi-open. Right, I detrimentally, I don't have any central pawns. But what I do have is a whole load of piece activity. So he pushes, queen e7, bishop there, castles, right? I'm barely thinking at this point. We've both spent about 25 seconds. And this guy's having to think, where am I going to get safe? Right? I've completed development now, right? Move 10, I've completed development. Right, now he brings a knight out. So what I should be thinking about now is activity, activity, activity. I want to take the game to white. I don't want to give him time to catch his breath. I don't want to give him time to run for safety. Knight e4, takes, bishop takes, right? I'm now threatening g2 and the rook behind it. Okay, I have eyes on c2. I have an active queen. Everything's active. My rooks are free to move from side to side. He now comes and challenges my bish. I'm having none of it. f5. If he wants to take, I'll probably take back with the queen, to be honest, because the queen will still be attacking there. He takes, take back with the queen. Okay, knight moves up. Again, you know, the pressure is all... So now this pawn is pinned, right? Yeah, and I've now got advanced pawns on the king side, making it really quite scary for him to think about castling short. And castling long, well, first of all, he's got to move his queen somewhere. So I push on with g4. Well, why not? Just keep the pressure on, right? f4 might follow, attacking the pinned pawn. We shall see. Knight moves to here. f4 comes. Queen takes pawn with check. Okay, so I kind of missed that one a little bit. There's probably better moves here. Okay, I think I've got, you know, a few blunders in this game. King b8, but you know, it's blitz. It's blunder practice, so hey ho. Queen comes back. Attacking this, but it's defended by queen and bishop, but this pawn here is hanging. So I decide to grab this one. Now, I'm not very interested in his b pawn. The reason is I don't want to give his rook line of sight towards kingy. What's the point in that? I think this pawn is almost as much a helper to me as a target. So now he castles. I mean, what else has he got? But he's castled straight onto a semi-open g-file. My bishop's looking nice. So now I start this process of, yeah, blunderer. Well, I thought I blundered a rook fork. So did he, obviously. But in fact, it was his blunder. He blundered his knight. Yeah, so now I'm actually up a minor piece for a pawn. In comes the knight, attacking the queen. Queen can't take pawn. And now it's all about pressure still, right? Bishop takes pawn. I just want to open up lines, right? I've got an extra knight. I want to, you know, use that knight's life for some positive cause. Line up queen and rook against the king. His rook now comes up. So now his rook's defending this, and I'm trying not to rush, but it's very tempting to rush here. He's got two attackers on here, I've got two defenders. I come in and attack the rook. In fact, I saw this, even before this move, I was eyeing up this move, looking at h2, also then discover supported by the bishop, and attacking this bishop as well. So rook up here just made it even juicier, because now I'm attacking 1, 2, 3 things all at once. He advances. I decide to take the pawn. I don't know if that's the best move. Maybe I should have got his bishop off the board. Don't know. A bishop's much better than a knight on an open board like this, so maybe I should have snatched the bishop first. Anyway, so I grabbed the pawn. Now he comes over here. I grab the bishop now. He recaptures with a rook. I offer a trade of rooks. He doesn't want a trade of rooks. He comes and attacks my queen. Just step forwards. So he's now got two attackers on here, but is he really going to capture that? You know, does he really want to do that? Certainly the queen does not. The queen can't capture there because rook h8 then pins the queen on the king. Also, the queen has to defend this pawn right now. Right, he did have a rook here defending it, but the rook's now moved. Okay, so he comes here. I drop my rook onto the back rank to force an exchange of rooks. King can't move there. This is the only legal move. So I take, rook takes, and now my advantage of having the extra bishop should begin to tell. I grab this pawn. He can now, if he wants to, he can now grab this, because this rook's undefended, but that's only temporary. He can't actually at all, can he? I'm talking nonsense, because that's checkmate. I've still got eyes on that pawn, still supported by a rook. So he pushes b4, which is slightly annoying. And I've been saying to myself for a couple of moves, I need an escape square, you know, let's get some insurance here. My opponent's rated, you know, 1380, 1390. So I can't rely on him doing really dumb things. And I kind of like this move here. I'm attacking the queen, reinstating my pressure on here. But again, he is now defending that pawn 3 times. So he grabs the pawn, and now queen onto the back rank, and it's the end of the game. Okay? Because he's got 2 legal moves, right? So this one, there, and he's just lost his rook, right? And that's checkmate, okay? The only other legal move is here, and then, for example, that is in check. What can he do? Seriously, what can he do? I think it's going to say everything is horrible. So he can't. I guess queen there is probably his best move, to be honest. Sack the queen, but it's gonna be mate. My queen's gonna come here. It's all gonna end in tears. Yeah, mate in 5 is his best option with queen f4, like we say. Bishop takes, and there you go. So that's Fromm's Gambit. Now, let's say we want to study Fromm's Gambit. You want to become a Fromm's Gambit expert against the Angry Bird opening. So the first thing we do is we'll go to the analysis board on Lichess. Okay, I'm going to hit the F key here to say that to flip the board. It's X on chess.com, it's F on Lichess. And now your crazy opponent wants to play this. Bird's opening. Not very common. Now, bird's opening is played under 1% of the time by white, and for good reason, because it's bollocks. So we are going to play Fromm's Gambit now. And then what we're going to do, we'll stick the fish on just for backup, but more than that, we're going to be looking at the most common moves. Move number 1, F takes E5, okay? So the F takes E5, and then what's best for black? What wins most for black? D6. D6 is the computer's choice and wins 49% of the time. So we're going to go D6. Okay, and that's what I accidentally played in the game, and it turns out to be the best idea. Again, what's most likely? By a country mile, 60% of the time they take, and what do we do? Bishop takes D6. So there you go, right? You know, you want to play Charlick Gambit against 1d4, you're already set up. You're already set up for Fromm's Gambit, okay? So you might do this as a line, for example. And now, let's say we now want to convert this into a study, right? So what you do is you click on the little hamburger menu down here at the bottom right, and you go, and this is where you set your general settings. You go study, okay? Create study. Fromm's Gambit versus Bird's opening, right? Allow cloning, yes. I don't want to sync everybody like that. Save, and now it's created me a study with 1 chapter, and I'm just going to set orientation as black. Yeah, it's got that, that's fine. And there we go. So this is chapter 1. So this is going to be and it's imported the moves. Okay, so I might call this fully accepted, right? Fully accepted. There we go. And what do they play? They're going to play knight f3. They always play knight f3. And when they play knight f3, knight to f6 is the computer's recommendation, scoring 50%. Knight h6 is kind of funky, scoring 54%. But I think this looks good. Knight f6 looks good. So I can just click on that and it'll play it for me. Right? And then I'll nearly always just go with the most common, right? Because the point here is not to memorize all the theory. Because I'm an intermediate player, right? I'm not a master. I don't need to memorize reams of theory. Okay? And now everything is good for black. Look at this. Right? I've given up both central pawns. I have no central pawns. Castles is good. Knight g4 is good. Bishop g4 is good. Knight c6 is good. Everything's like outscoring white. c5 is awesome. But c5 doesn't feature on the engines lines. But, okay, so castles is most common by a long way. Castles is played 45% of the time. c5 is very, very niche. But it has been played 169 times. So that's 3 figures. 3 figures for 56 versus 36. Plus it means white's not going to see it very often. So what I might do now is I might explore c5. And look at this. You know, the c5 line, the computer disapproves. But basically, unless they play dc, black has already equalised and is going to go ahead and cause mayhem by the look of things. But even with dc in the real world, black's winning 57%, white's winning only 36%. Okay, so dc. And now, what is it? Queen a5 check. Goodness gracious, lorks oh lordy. But apparently that's a blunder. But we still win 61% of the time in the real world. Why is it a blunder? Because of b4. But they don't play b4. This position has been seen 36 times and b4 has been played only once. Really? b4, queen takes b4, c3. Then we can come back and take this. And generally we'll win, but I mean, b4 apparently is way, way better for white. Huh, curious. Okay, but they're not going to play that. They're going to play knight c3 or bishop d2. Okay, knight c3 is the most common. And that equalises. Immediately, on the spot, bishop takes c5, thank you very much. Okay, and to be honest, that's all you really need to know. So now I might click on the annotations, might say equal position, and I might leave a note to say, you know, black has won 6 out of 10 games from here versus 3 for white. Something like that, right? And that's all I need. So that's like a fully accepted line. Now, from here, if I go back, I'll go back to the start, right? I'll look at this line. Okay, what if they play knight, you know, do I need to prepare against knight f3? Do I? So knight f3. So generally what I'll do is I'll look for things in the first few moves, if it's more than 10% of the time. Okay, so let's do a knight f3, okay? So this isn't going to be fully accepted. This is going to be declined knight f3. So I'll add a new chapter, right? Now, you see I've got declined knight f3 chapter names in other things, so in other studies here, and we're going to go knight f3. And that's all. So you can see we've gone from a bit better to a bit worse. So I'm going to call that probably dubious move, right? Which means inaccuracy in Lichess language. Okay, and what's best? e4 according to the machine. Ooh, I like that. It's aggressive. e4, we win 55% of the time. Sold. Yeah? They'll play knight d4. And then we play c5 and hit the knight again. According to the machine, c5 wins 54. Knight f6 is good. Go on, let's go c5. Let's just go balls out. c5, we're already -1. Okay. So to be honest, from this position, how often is a bird's opening player going to see this particular thing? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we need to go a little bit further. So they're going to play knight b3. Nearly always. Okay. And then we play, well, knight c6 wins quite a lot. Computer says d5. So d5 just controls the centre. This pawn, remember, is defended by bishop. I like the look of d5. I'm going with that, right? I will say black is slightly better and happy days. Okay. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Right? You've got a unique URL. You just need to save that. I bookmark them. I've got a thing for studies, you know, for black. So for here, I will grab the link, I will drop it into black, bang, 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 I'll drop it into there. So now it's in studies, black, From's Gambit versus Bird's Opening, okay? And that's it, job done. So now I am slightly prepared against something I'm going to see less than 1 in 100 games, playing with the black pieces, but, you know, doesn't hurt, does it? Right, everyone, thanks for watching. Hope it's been useful and interesting and entertaining. Please subscribe to Chess Boot Camp if you haven't subscribed. I'll see you soon.